This is part D of the lecture on trauma. And now we're going to look at what happens inside our brains and what happens to us emotionally that creates a traumatic experience. It's actually a psycho and physical experience. This is a slide of the whole right brain, left brain theory, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. The left side of the brain is very analytical, linear, explicit, sequential, and rational. It's concrete. It's very goal-oriented. On the other hand, the right side of the brain is spontaneous, intuitive, emotional. This is where women excel highly. It's very verbal and artistic. It's very holistic. Looks at life as a whole thing. That's the left brain, right brain thing. You need to understand that because it's going to be an important part of what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes as it relates to trauma. Now, the two sides of the brain, as you can see from this visual, are connected by neural connectors. And women have 40% more neural connectors between the two sides of their brain than men have. Consequently, men are very single-minded and focused. On the other hand, these extra connectors and extra connecting tissue between the two sides is why women display real skills in language much earlier. They read better. And they are more the juggler. And they use both sides of their brain holistically at the same time, which is part of what drives men crazy, of course. This is a chart, a cutaway view, a side view of the brain. Let's take a look at it for a minute. In the very front of the head is the prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO. This is the supervisory system of the brain that tells everything else what to do. Then you have the receiving department, which is the control tower for the senses, sight, smell, hear, touch, and so on. The thalamus and the amygdala are the sensory alarm system. And deep down inside the brain is the hippocampus. This controls our emotional response. And it expedites or dispenses our hormones and enzymes into our blood and into our body, and that's what creates the emotional response. So that's a physical explanation of what happens in trauma. So we have this left-right side thing, okay? The left side calms the emotional side, keeps it in order. However, in trauma, the left side is turned off. It has less ability to do its job. Trauma freezes our ability to think. And on the other hand, trauma hypersensitizes the right side of the brain. It turns it on. It overreacts. It's like an alarm, car alarm that keeps going off. You know, you can't find the button, and it's going beep, 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 beep. You can't find the right button. You're getting a little panicky because it's annoying people, it's annoying you, and it's loud, and it just keeps banging away at you, beeping away at you. Well, that's what a trauma does. The emotions just keep pounding away at you so that you can't get rid of them. So trauma disconnects the two sides of the brain, splits them up, renders the left side helpless. So what happens then is when we encounter something that we feel threatens our lives, a cascade of hormonal reactions is triggered. What someone is actually feeling in a panic attack, what someone is actually feeling in a trauma, what someone is actually feeling when they wake up in a dream in a cold sweat is the result of the hippocampus pumping all of these hormones into our blood and our body physiologically reacting. Something happens deep in our brains too. Our right side brain alarm goes off and drowns out the logical analysis of our left brain. It screams, less thinking, more action. It also starts taking pictures like mad. The noradrenaline heightens the emotional aspects of the situation, making it more vivid and notable. Very strong and clear memories are being recorded, probably so that we'll remember this event and we'll avoid it in the future. The brain's saying, remember what happened. And so it takes this, it's almost like a HD video of what's happened, and records that in our brain. The left side isn't working. The right side just keeps replaying that loop over and over and over again. And because the hippocampus is constantly pumping that stuff into our blood, it's a very clear, precise, overdone, if you will, overemphasized video. What you experienced during the incident was so traumatic that your brain took special note of it. And any time you approach a person, place, thing, or experience that is similar to your original trauma, your right brain whips out its photo album and puts it on an intense presentation. Sight, smell, sounds, and so on, attempting to alert you of the danger that could be waiting there. In the old West Wing series, there's an episode in which the character Josh Lyman is shot. Pretty seriously injured. Bullet almost penetrates his heart. Takes hours and hours of surgery to remove the bullet, to reconstruct the arteries around his heart. Goes through a long, drawn-out recovery process. But several months after he's back to work, at Christmas time, there's a string quartet doing a concert in the White House. And somehow in his brain, the sound of the violins reminds him of the sounds of the sirens, and he relives, he re-experiences all of those emotions that went with being shot. They call in a doctor, a psychiatrist, a post-traumatic stress disorder specialist, and he explains to Josh Lyman that he is re-experiencing the trauma. And that all of the emotions, all of the feelings, the panic, the fear, all of that is being dumped back into his body just like that over and over and over. Remember, our left side is more like a computer. Our right side is more like a photo album. This side remembers faces and craves rapport and relationship. It's our emotional side. It is intuitive, spontaneous, experience-oriented, artistic, creative. It stores emotions. We dream on this side of our brain. And very importantly, this is the alarm side of our brain. So what's going on in Josh Lyman's head is that he hears a sound that triggers all of that stuff, and his brain says, look out, bad things are about to happen, you're about to get shot. And that video loop keeps playing in his brain to the point that his body cannot deal with it, cannot manage it. Your logical left brain gets muted, and the calming influence of your hippocampus is pitched off. And you are on a re-experiencing jaunt, which, if your right brain would only listen, your left brain could explain why you didn't need to take that detour today, but your left brain can't talk and your right brain ain't listening. It's too preoccupied. Now, here's where you come in as a Christian counselor. It's necessary in Christian counseling therapy to invite Jesus Christ into the episodic memories of your trauma, visualizing Him experiencing it with you. Hopefully, you'll be able to continue engaging in this spiritual exercise, giving Him more and more access to your places of pain and darkness, and thereby bringing about some direct healing. This is where you as a where you as a Christian counselor can provide assistance that other counselors cannot. Because we have good news. The good news is that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, also suffered. He also experienced trauma. Remember that when Jesus was hanging on the cross, having been beaten, nearly bled to death, nails through his hands and feet, crown of thorns pressed down upon his head, he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Now, The left brain side of him knew why. But the right brain side was so taken over with the trauma that it can't hear the left brain, it can't hear, and he cries out in trauma. Now here's your assignment coming out of this lecture. Your assignment is to record, to write down, type actually in this case, an experience of trauma. Recount the event, describe it. If you've had feelings or emotions about it since then, describe those. And then write about how it feels knowing that Jesus Christ has experienced trauma with you. Now please understand that the purpose of this assignment is to help you understand your own trauma, if you in fact have experienced some, so that then you can share that same comfort that you have experienced with others. This completes the lecture on trauma. Thank you.